Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is a morning update. So I've been talking about RICO a lot on this show, and I did some research into the statute, and I was wondering what the precedent was for it to be used in sex trafficking cases, in cases of sexual assault, etc. And I found several cases of RICO laws being used against the church and priests. Besides that, if you go to justice.gov, there is something called the Trafficking Victims Protection Reauthorization Act of 2003. And I'm going to read that to you real quick. And it's pretty eye-opening to know that there's actually a RICO statute already on the books about human trafficking. And nobody talks about it in the media. Nobody brings it up. I haven't heard anybody talking about RICO except for us here on this show. So I'm going to read to you what this says real quick. The Trafficking Victims Protection Reauthorization Act of 2003. The Trafficking Victims Protection Reauthorization Act of 2003, TVPRA 2003, Pub L number 108-193, refined federal criminal provisions against trafficking to include adding human trafficking crimes as a Racketeer-Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, RICO, predicate, and created a civil remedy enabling trafficking victims to file lawsuits against their traffickers in federal district court. There you have it, folks, right off of the justice.gov's own website. Again, can someone answer me how this is not a RICO case? How these people haven't been slapped with RICO statutes yet? How aren't these people all in handcuffs and being talked to by the investigators yet? How is that even possible? Who's protecting them? And why? If this was normal people, if you were involved in, say, a gambling ring, or you were, involved in stashing some money offshore, forget it. You would get slapped with RICO so quickly. And then if they want to really be wise guys, no pun intended, they'll slap you with a leadership role as well, which bears even bigger penalties. So, in my opinion, everyone involved should be slapped under the RICO statutes, and Ghislaine Maxwell should get hit with a leadership role, RICO statute, and as well, Jean-Luc Brunel should also get slapped with one. These people have been avoiding prosecution and avoiding the law for so long that they're so brazen in their activity that they believe they will never, ever, ever, ever have to pay the price for what they've done. And we're here to tell them differently. We're here to tell them that there is no quarter for them. There is nowhere to run. There is nowhere to hide. I don't care if you have 5,000 Navy SEALs guarding you. We're going to find you, and we're going to force you to answer questions. That's it. That's how it works. That is how it works. Just like Tim Malloy chased down Jeffrey Epstein, we're going to chase down Ghislaine Maxwell. We're going to find her. And I don't mean us here on the show, obviously. I mean as a collective. She is going to be found. Somebody is going to find her. And when she is found, well, she is going to have to answer questions. But my question to the prosecutors out there is, why in the hell did you not slap her with a RICO case? It's right there in big bold letters for everybody to see on the justice.gov website, right on the government's own website, folks. It's not some theory. It's not some guy talking about it. The statutes are actually there for human trafficking from the 2003 Reauthorization Act. All right? So why is nobody talking about that? Why is nobody talking about that? It's become the elephant in the room for me. The RICO statutes give the government so much ability to be more abrupt, I guess you would say. You want to talk about no-knock raids and swooping everybody up. Well, RICO statutes are the way to go. And they'll throw 1,000 of them at you. All they need to do is get a couple of them to stick. A couple of them sticks and you end up in jail for decades. All right, so what we're going to talk about today, article-wise, is we have an article from NewYorkMag.com, and it's the 5 takeaways from the 60 Minutes Jeffrey Epstein report. And the article is by Adam K. Raymond, and it was published last night at yesterday afternoon, at 2:18 p.m. So that is the article we're going to discuss here in a second. But I wanted to just talk about RICO real quick and go over it very quickly at the beginning of this show, because I thought it was pretty interesting information to find, right? I've been digging around and I've been looking for, precedent for RICO cases in these sort of situations. Obviously, there's nothing that really compares to the Jeffrey Epstein situation. It's kind of like having your scout team quarterback try and prepare you for Lamar Jackson. It's just not the same once you get into the game. And that's kind of the situation we're dealing with Epstein. There's really nothing to compare it to, right? Nothing in American history to compare it to. So it's a beast all of its unto itself almost. But the precedent is there, and now that I've read that statute and I found out that it is law, well, there's no doubt in my mind that RICO prosecution is definitely coming for these people. If the government is serious about prosecuting them, they will slap them with RICO statutes. And if they do that, then we'll know that they're serious. If they don't do that, then we know that the government's just playing games again. So let's keep our eye on that, and let's see what happens if and when somebody gets arrested. Let's see what the charges are, and let's see how hard they plan on going after these people. Because if they slap them with some ridiculous charges, well, we know they'll probably find a way to squirm out. You're not squirming out of RICO. All right? Ask all the mafia kingpins in prison. Ask all of the drug cartel people. Ask anyone who's ever been slapped with a RICO charge how brutal and disruptive it is to your life. It is not fun to get hit with RICO charges, folks. That is the pinnacle of the government being able to come after you. So I wanted to talk about that a little bit and let you guys know that there is precedent for it, and it is actually a law on the books. So with that said, if you'd like to contact me, you can do that at bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI@protonmail.com. All right, and now on to the article. Like I said, it's from the NewYorkMag.com. 5 takeaways from the 60 Minutes Jeffrey Epstein report is the headline, and the author is Adam K. Raymond. On Sunday, 60 Minutes gave the public its first look inside the Manhattan jail cell where Jeffrey Epstein reportedly killed himself last year. 60 Minutes published the photos taken inside the Metropolitan Correctional Center, along with photos taken during Epstein's autopsy at the conclusion of a 5-month investigation. The photos show a chaotic scene inside the cell, where at least 2 nooses made from orange bedsheets were found. As is the case with much of the reporting around Epstein's death, the story raised more questions than it had answered. You think? You think? Yeah, I think so. Why did he have all of those bedsheets, first of all? Really? What the hell? How did he get them all in there? A guy that's supposedly under that much scrutiny is able to get that many bedsheets in his cell? Who gave him the bedsheets? Here are 5 takeaways from the 60 Minutes report. Noose may not match official account of Epstein's death. That's what it looked like to me. I said that when we were looking at the pictures the other day. I said that there's something going on with that noose. There was no blood on it. It doesn't look like it matches the ligature marks. But look, I'm not a forensic guy. I don't really, I never even used to watch like the ID channel or anything before, getting involved with this Jeffrey Epstein case. So I'm not really like a forensic expert or anything like that, but common sense says when you look at that, it looks like it would be a cord that caused that mark, in my opinion. Photos from inside Epstein's cell show a cluttered mess of orange bed sheets strewn across mattresses and the floor. There's a bit of sheet hanging from a grate on the window, and other pieces are tied to Epstein's bed. 2 nooses were photographed in the cell, and one was taken into evidence, presumably because it was thought to be the noose Epstein used to kill himself. But there's some doubt about whether the noose is the one. But there's some doubt about whether the noose is the one Epstein used in his suicide. The guard who found Epstein reportedly cut him down, and the noose taken into evidence has 2 hemmed edges. Another noose photographed in Epstein's cell looks to have frayed edges, though. Oh my God. It is such a I would say a joke, but it's not even funny how bad everything went down in this that night for that Jeffrey Epstein died. From the way the jail itself reacted to the other inmates, it's just a whole bad scene. How could everything go south that quickly? How can everything just happen to go wrong so quickly? And why? were the cameras on his cell not working? The only ones in the place, huh? The only ones that went down. There wasn't a system-wide outage, none of that. Just those cameras went out? Interesting. Epstein had dangerous objects in his cell. Dr. Michael Baden, the forensic pathologist hired by Epstein's brother Mark, told 60 Minutes what he's been telling the media for months, that the evidence released so far points much more to murder and strangulation than suicide. He raised doubts about why Epstein would have hanged himself with a sheet when there was a sleep apnea machine with an electrical cord in his cell. Epstein also at one point had a ballpoint pen, which Baden said would never have been given to someone considered suicidal. And that's what I was saying, folks. There was that sleep apnea machine in the room. Why would he use a bed sheet to hang himself when he could use the cable from the cord from that? And if you look at the ligature marks, it does not look like it was done by that noose. Again, I'm stuck on that. I keep seeing it, and I keep going back to that and saying to myself, there's no way that those injuries are consistent with the narrative. It just doesn't make sense to me. Epstein left a note. It's not a suicide letter, but there was a note found in Epstein's cell after his death. It included complaints about the jail conditions. The first word on the note, as shown on 60 Minutes, is blurred out, but CBS News suggests it's the name of a guard who Epstein writes, kept me in a locked shower stall for 1 hour. The next line references Tova Noel, one of the guards on duty the night Epstein killed himself. Noel sent me burnt food, it says. Giant bugs crawling over my hands. No fun. So it really looks like a letter that was scrawled by like a 10-year-old child, honestly. So the letter, I don't really know if there's more to that than there is. I haven't really dove too deep on the letter yet. I'm thinking it's just a letter of him, venting maybe, but it's certainly not a suicide letter. Concerns about how Epstein's body was handled. We covered this already. They broke federal law when they handled his dead body the way that they did without treating it as a crime scene. And it just adds to it adds to the litany of terrible decisions and bad jobs done by people that night. It is just more stuff that makes you shake your head and say to yourself, how is any of this even possible? How don't they follow procedure? How do they get away with doing stuff like this? And if they got away with doing it with Jeffrey Epstein, meaning the procedures aren't followed and things are not the way they should be, how often does this happen to inmates in prison and in jail? And look, folks, I'm not saying people should be on some sort of vacation while they're in jail, right? But they should be treated humanely, and they should be treated with, at the very least, the respect of a human being. And it doesn't seem like that occurs in MCC. It seems, from everything I've read, it's just a bad place. But with that said, there hasn't been a suicide there for decades. And now all of a sudden Jeffrey Epstein kills himself? Come on, guys. Baden told 60 Minutes about two problems he has with how Epstein's body was handled in the immediate aftermath of his death. First, Epstein's body was taken to an emergency room. That's not normal protocol, he said. Baden, along with other forensic pathologists, also told 60 Minutes that Epstein's body should have been photographed as it was found, which would provide essential clues about how he died. New questions about the wound on Epstein's neck. Baden revived the hyoid bone theory that he talked about on Fox News last October. As he sees it, Epstein's broken neck bone is much more consistent with murder than suicide. Experts have pushed back against the claim since Baden first made it. And the New York City medical examiner, who has concluded that Epstein killed himself by hanging, disputed Baden's theory. On Sunday night, Baden also raised a new concern about Epstein's wounds. He suggested that the placement of the marks on Epstein's neck is not consistent with most hangings, which result in marks just beneath the jawbone. Dr. Baden says a wound straight across the neck is more common when a victim is strangled by a wire or a cord, 60 Minutes' Sharon Alfonsi said in the report. Questions have been raised about Baden's credibility and the fact that he's been hired by Epstein's brother. Asked about concerns over his impartiality, given his position on the Epstein family payroll, Baden told 60 Minutes that's a reasonable thing for some people to think. Well, yeah, of course people are going to think that. That's the kind of world we live in, right? People are going to think that you're you're being biased. And, that's fine. But at the same time, wouldn't the same be said about the New York City, the Examiner? Couldn't she be accused of being biased as well? Who knows who've talked to her, who told her to, you better make this, I'm not saying I have any evidence of that, but we don't know. We don't know if she was pressured into making this call. We don't know anything. And we don't know anything because the government will not release information. Like usual, they're trying to dog walk it and take so much time that we forget about it. But guess what? We're not going to forget about it, Mr. Barr. So do the right thing. Start rebuilding the credibility of your organizations and arrest these people now. All right? Well, I don't understand. I really don't understand how these people are not under arrest. You start with the low hanging. Here, I'll give you a pro tip, okay, Mr. Barr, since you don't seem to understand how this works. You start with the low hanging fruit. You bring them in. You put them to the question. You make them turn. They rat out higher up the chain. You give them a plea deal. Eventually, you get to Ghislaine Maxwell. And when we get to Ghislaine Maxwell, no plea deals. Fast trial, harsh punishment. That is what I want. That is the goal. And these girls deserve that. These girls deserve to see Ghislaine Maxwell perp walked. Because like I've said for the past few days, I am totally of the mind now that Ghislaine Maxwell was truly the mastermind behind this. She was the brains. She was the one that kicked it into overdrive, and she is the one that is still running around being hidden. Some reports say Israel, some reports say the Midwest of America. I have no idea. I'll be the first to tell you I have zero idea where Ghislaine Maxwell is. But I'll tell you where she belongs. In the very bottom of hell, folks. That's where she belongs. All right, everybody. If you'd like to contact me, you can do that at bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI@protonmail.com. And if you would like to help support the podcast, you can do that by clicking on the GoFundMe link that will be in the description box. Also, I'll have that justice.gov link in the description box as well, so you can go through and read that statute yourself and see what I'm talking about with RICO. It's right there in big bold letters for anyone to see. I'm not Johnny Cochran or anything, but, I think that this case fits a RICO statute. So go take a look at that yourself. And we'll be back later on today with all the good stuff that you folks love. All right, everybody, I will talk to you later. Enjoy your Tuesday.